All right, hello, coffee makers, not coffee takers. He is the master of cyber farms, Alfredzo B, Nash Jr., and I am the people's chief, Dr. Joseph J. Burt-Miller Jr. We are your hosts for the Cyber Coffee Hour. Alfredzo Nash and I are products of Mount Vernon, New York, sharing our experiences and stories and sharing those of our amazing guests. We aim to share knowledge, elevate understanding, and foster a sense of belonging in this vast cyberspace. So for today's show, we will have a coffee chat with the founder of QFunction, Ryan Smith. Now, Ryan Smith is a cybersecurity professional with over 8 years of expertise in the cybersecurity field. He specializes in SIEMs, threat hunting, and user entity behavior analytics. He has worked in diverse environments, including NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Pfizer. He has also created the Red Team curriculum for Full Stack Academy, where students can learn ethical hacking. He started QFunction LLC to help businesses improve their cybersecurity posture and resilience by providing customized AI solutions. Ryan, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Joseph. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Great, man. Great. So, again, thank you for being on the show. And also, as we're recording this, it is Memorial Day weekend. So we do want to recognize or remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. I know everyone is taking time off, barbecue and whatnot, but just remember that during this period of time, we're remembering those who have served our country and again, who paid that ultimate sacrifice. So just want to take a little time out to remember that. But yeah, so as we go with that, just do a little catch up. Alfredzo, man, how you been doing, sir?
In short, I'm wandering the wasteland. I'm doing good outside of that. I had a pretty difficult time with my landscape design class, so I'm recovering from that, sleepless nights, and I am also cleaning up my backyard. So.
Okay.
But the landscape design class, put some work on my brain this semester at my school I'm going to.
Pretty good challenge, huh?
Yeah, especially for a cyber brain guy.
Yeah. Ryan, how about you, man? How things been going for you?
Things are okay. They've just been busy. Anytime that you're a new business owner, you're coming up to speed on a lot of different things, right? And when it comes to that stuff, they don't really tell you how to be a business owner. You're kind of figuring out a lot as you go. So It's more just a matter of just constantly learning, right? But it's fun. It's definitely an experience.
Wow, Ryan, you helped me out so much too, because you're right. You're absolutely right. There's no training. There's just going, learning and growing as you go. So you're absolutely 100%. I completely agree with you.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of the journey, you go through, hills and valleys. The main thing is actually learning, because as you go on, you pick up things, you learn, and you definitely see your growth and see where you've come, from where you started to where you are and where you will be as you continue to progress. So, but still, I don't think there's anything better than being a business owner. There's gonna be struggles, but that's part of it, So
agreed. Because growing up, I always thought that I would have that traditional career path, right? Finding a company, working your way up. And then for me, it was the pandemic that changed a lot, right? Because it really put things into perspective. What is important to you? What do you really want out of your life? Because that showed everyone that you're not guaranteed. So in the time that we have here, how can you best live your life? And for me, I took that plunge to say, hey, let's try something a little outside of my comfort zone here, which is kind of what led me to where I am now.
And that's where the growth happens.
Exactly.
When you do it, when you go outside that comfort zone. But you make a great point though, man, because and Alfredzo, and we've talked about this a couple of times already, just how much everything has changed, since the pandemic, or, so when you talk about, businesses, people, or even just employees, losing their jobs, their sense of livelihood because of the pandemic, and that's highly dependent on the type of work that they were doing. If they were in a position where, this field or this position was not, I guess, mission critical, you were the first one to go. So then you're in a spot like, yo, what do I do? This is all I've done all my life. I don't know anything new. And but then again, also too, I think that's where you saw the influx of, that's when Udemy and Coursera, all these courses really blew up, because everyone's all right, they cross train into let me go to cyber IT because I need a job. I need to learn a new skill. And I'm home all day, so I got nothing better to do than just sit home, take some classes, and try to skill up. So, well, no, I think you make a great point. I think that was a wake up call for a lot of people as to just to really understand like what it is that I want to do, what it is that I want to get out of life, and how can I best, especially if you have a family, how can I best provide for my family, myself and my family,
Exactly.
going forward. So yeah, it's definitely a mindset shift for sure. For sure.
To piggyback on that too, the private sector started incentivizing those platforms. I remember 10 or so years ago, those platforms weren't incentivized, right? So folks that were learning on the job, like we grew up with apprenticeships, on the job training, yada yada. Now those same platforms, because of the pandemic, even without the mission critical side, right? Public sector had to start to say, well, let's incentivize learning while doing, growing and investing in yourself. All those campaigns came out and folks were learning on the job again. So I'm right there with you too. I definitely think in the private sector, I noticed a shift back to, hey, you could train up in your existing role, right? Hey, you could train up and go to the next level when you start using these platforms on us, on the company's time and dime, which I haven't seen in like 10, 15 years.
So as we're on this subject regarding like careers and work, but given your experience, Ryan, working in cybersecurity at organizations like NASA, like what are some of the biggest, cybersecurity challenges, facing government agencies today, in your opinion?
Yeah, sure. So it's going to be two things, actually. One, which I think is going to be the biggest thing, is staffing. And two is keeping up with the times. So when it comes to staffing, we'll start off with that. I'm sure that you've seen news articles of government having issues finding cybersecurity personnel, trying to find the right talent to man their organizations. And I'm looking at LinkedIn and I'm seeing all of these unemployed cybersecurity people. And I'm thinking to myself, how are you having problems finding people? You can literally go on LinkedIn and have your pick of really qualified candidates on there.
Right.
And I think that that is a result of government having, less than ideal hiring practices. You kind of have to go through very long processes in order to get hired by government agencies, right? And in that case, I think that the government kind of gets in their own way, right? And my time at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, because we work with NASA a lot, I saw that a lot. We had to do this, that, and the other. And a lot of those things may have not been the most useful thing from a cybersecurity perspective. But again, they kind of dictate what needs to happen, right? So I really do believe that the first thing, staffing, needs to be solved because the government needs to get out of its own way. There is talent out there. There is a lot of talent out there. And you just need to know how to tap into that talent in a more modern way. Second would be keeping up with the times, right? So there's obviously a rise within, artificial intelligence. There's a rise within cybersecurity attacks. Keeping up with all those from a modern perspective is going to be very hard for government, because government, when it comes to having to procure new software or procure just new things, right, it takes a very long time for adoption. And when it comes to private industry, they move a lot faster because, they're not bound by the red tape that government is normally bound to.
Right. Yeah.
So when it comes to getting that new experience, or rather that relevant experience, I think that that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that they have ahead of them, especially with the rise of AI. I mean, I think that the Biden administration, they pushed out their mandate on AI, on how to secure it, and just how to best create models and things like that in a more safe and effective way, right? So they're aware of the issue, and granted, they are aware of having to, I guess, hire this new talent, right? But it's going to be a long path ahead of them before they can actually, really get up to speed with how modern practices are. So I think that that's going to be the biggest thing, the biggest challenges for government.
Right, so.
And I'm sorry, Fred. Just one follow up. And I think when you talk about as far as like the hiring practices within government, I think it's even extrapolate even more when we talk about if one is going for like a higher clearance,
right?
Because that will definitely extend the time as far as bringing on a potential candidate And a lot of times, I'm sure you, Ryan, I'm sure you could attest to this. Is let's say they go into the hiring process, and they say yes, we want to bring you on, but then let's say but they need their secret or TS clearance, and that's going to take a while. That's not no overnight thing. A lot of folks will, because they may leave or find another job in that time they're waiting, because let's just keep it real. People got to eat. They got to put food on the table. They can't.
You got to make this coffee,
especially if
man.
they don't have especially if they don't already have a job in place when they're applying. They gotta get something.
Exactly.
So,
and you can't.
They're losing talent.
Right. You can't keep people waiting, because, like you said, at the end of the day, we're all trying to put food on the table, right, for us and our families, and we can't stand to wait for the whole clearance process. And going for clearance, I remember, they have to interview you, your friends, your family, your neighbors, and that takes a long time to get through that process, right?
Especially if they can't find them.
Especially if they can't find them, because I remember going through that process. I moved a lot in my 20s. That's just the nature of your 20s. You go where the opportunity is. I had like 7 different addresses. Right? So
Me too.
I think we all can attest to that.
Right.
I'm biting the inside of my cheek because of that. I'm not to cut you, right? I'm sorry, because I'm sitting here gritting my teeth. I am open to work. Yes. I am one of those individuals you talked about. In the last 10 years, I probably had, like you said, 7 to maybe 8 addresses. And the other side of it is that, I'm sitting here gritting my teeth, because you're right. No one can wait for that process, especially when they're let go because of that process. Mm-hmm. Oversight, directorships. We all know. We heard mission statements. You said mission critical, Dr. Joseph. Some functions have these overlapping abilities around spending, and I hate saying it, but when political currents change, your role changes in that side, public side. Now, as a private sector guy, predominantly like you, in my 20s, I got it. Hustled around, went to wherever the coffee was, wherever the data was, wherever. There was no mission, right? So when you came to me and said mission, I'm like, lights got to literally stay on. The bills have to still be paid. I know you got bills, but so does everybody with the talent. Exactly. Sometimes, the skills have to match paying those bills. And a lot of times those conversations for me as well have not worked out in my favor when I have to wait for something like, let's just say, public trust clearance. Just the entry, right? Not the higher tiers like Dr. Joseph and crew have been talking about on this show, but just the entry to get into, hey, check your neighbor, check this, check that, check your academic record, your fiscal record. All right, 3 months went by. I got 3 months of arrears. What's up with that? Private sector give you a sign-on. I'll throw myself out there. Private sector, we got you. If you're lucky. And if they vouch for you, like, hey, your skills is what we need today, not tomorrow. We need them right now.
Exactly.
Public sector, my little stint right now in the last 5 years has not amount to the pressure that's with that clearance. There's a pressure. There's a fiscal pressure that's not being talked about. I'm going through it right now. I'm on the show talking about it. About starting a business. This show is our business. The first I've ever officially built. So you're right. It's how do I keep the lights on and then keep pumping out the skills and being a part of the sector? Because you're right. Dr. Joseph hit on it. Sometimes people look at that public sector as the detractor. Hey, they can hold off. I don't want to apply to them now. I've seen it. I've got a taste of it, and I've heard on shows like this and other shows, partner shows, brother and sister shows as well. Hey, that process takes way too long. So I'm looking for like the talent pipeline, public to private engagements. Hey, we need this role right here. Click it, apply, let's go. Because otherwise I got to go start up another organization, or I got to go find a revenue stream while I wait to get cleared. So that's the part that I hear you saying as well, Ryan. I appreciate you, because hearing that and going through it right as we speak right now, it's like lights are going off. Lights are like, oh my God, this is not just me now. And if we didn't have this episode, I would have thought, hey man, it's just me. I'm probably just going through it by myself, right?
No, it's not. And because I think that one of the big problems going forward now, at least especially in cyber, is the fact that everyone's looking for unicorns. Everyone is looking for the person that can do literally everything, right? Mm-hmm. Having, 15 years of AI experience when it's only been out for 5, right? One of those, one of those things. And, that's a little, a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, you get the point though, because everyone's looking for someone who has everything, and being able to learn skills on the job now, or for employers to actually provide training, that just seems to be non-existent now. They want you to have everything up front. coming to the table, right? And I don't think that that's fair, especially when it comes to maintaining a cybersecurity workforce. Things are always changing, and it's hard to keep up. You can't expect the workers to always be on top of everything. The field changes too fast. You have to be able to cut your workers some slack, let them come up to speed, and help them out with their career development process, because ultimately I think that helps everyone in the long run.
One thing I'm waiting for, we're going to jump into the next section here, but one thing I'm waiting for is this train your trainer opportunity. So they don't have the trainers. To your point, they don't have the folks. Even if you have somebody that knew cloud security, new threat hunting detection, like we're about to jump into, and any of these like cloud security, let's say, parameters that most organizations do or do not have, they're not willing to bring somebody in to train new and up and coming staff, existing staff. Never mind going out and hiring folks off the street, inner source them. That's something I cut the research on, and say, hey, you will become a trainer of the existing staff. Partner them up with the senior folks, right? Do the mentorship, the apprenticeship, the on-the-job training you mentioned, and then build trainers going forward. That'll increase the head count. But so Dr. Joseph mentioned your specialization in SIEMs and threat hunting and UEBA, which we're going to jump into. I think that's a very favorite subject of mine. Can you break down these areas and explain how they work together to improve an organization's cybersecurity posture?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with SIEMs, right? So SIEM, Security Incident and Event Manager. You can think of it as a giant database of just security data. All of our tools produce their own kinds of data. You have endpoint data, you have firewall data, you have network access control data, you have vulnerability management data, you have all kinds of different data. Now, when it comes to these tools, they all produce data in their own different formats and within their own silos. When it comes to being able to correlate all of that data, it's very hard when they're all in separate places. So what we do is that we pump all that data into what's known as a SIEM, right? And when it's all in that singular place, then you can start seeing trends within data. You can start making correlations between data. And when it comes to incident response or threat hunting, it becomes a lot easier in order to find those things that are important for cybersecurity practitioners. Now, threat hunting is the next part of that. So we as cybersecurity professionals depend on our tooling. Without our tools, we can't do anything. We depend on our endpoints. We depend on our firewalls. The problem, though, is that we're starting to see more advanced threats, and those advanced threats tend to slip through the cracks of our existing cybersecurity infrastructure. So what people are saying now, what is good practice, is now going through your data and proactively finding those threats before they become actual alerts, right? Because when it comes down to it, being able to find those things before they could become problems is a lot better than waiting for it to become a problem. So that's what proactive threat hunting is. And then you come to user behavior and analytics. So like I said, we become more attacked with new advanced threats, right? Cybersecurity is a cat and mouse game. Red teams are always trying to one up the blue team. So what we're seeing now is that it's really important to understand what is normal for your organization. And when I say for your organization, I mean your users and your systems. So if those users or systems start deviating from your normal, that is very useful to know from a cybersecurity perspective, because you know that, hey, if this, I don't know, let's say this HR person is starting to do lateral movement within an organization, that's weird. They shouldn't have tools like PS Exec or something like that, WMI or whatever. I'm sticking with Windows systems examples. So
our favorite.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to understanding what's normal for users, when they start deviating from that normal, that's very helpful from a cybersecurity standpoint. So it's an act of establishing what's normal and then monitoring when behaviors deviate from that said normal, which is effectively user entity behavior analytics in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
So can we work our way backwards? I'm jumping to, because I heard something also that's a mythical animal to me.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the user entity behavior analytics, those trends will, if they're abnormal enough in your day-to-day operations, would that lead into a threat hunt and detection exercise? Or can you work the way from right to left through finding the analytics, finding the threat hunting capability and detection, and then what shows up in the scene in your experience?
Correct. Yeah. So traditionally speaking, these user behavior analytics solutions are pumped data from your SIEM, right? So you're already collecting data in your organization in some form, and then that data gets fed over to the UEBA solution, and then the
Perfect.
UEBA solution starts doing its own machine learning AI in order to learn what's normal for those users and systems. So depending on how your organization functions, you can go one way, as in you can go from the SIEM to the threat hunting to the user behavior analytics, or you can start from the user behavior analytics and perform threat hunts based off that, right? Based
Yeah.
off the anomalies that it finds there. So it just depends on what works for your organization. There is no tried and true way, like in terms of merging threat hunting and user behavior analytics. There are methodologies for threat hunting. Like, you start off with your hypothesis. Hey, we think that we have some threat in this organization. Then you collect the data in order to either support or refute that hypothesis. Then you come to your conclusion, right? Say, hey, we were able to find this threat, or we weren't able to find this threat, which is both are good, right? And because in the process, you are learning what's normal for your organization, especially when it comes to that threat hunt. What systems are these? What entities are these systems connecting to from a network perspective? What users are logging onto these systems? What executables are ran on these systems? So you, as a cybersecurity practitioner, understand what is normal, so that if there is an event, you can be able to say, hey, I don't remember saying that. That's actually kind of weird. Maybe we should look into that more. Right. So hopefully that answers the question.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm right there with you. I'm a fanboy of threat hunting detection, but more so cyber threat intelligence.
Yes.
But the biggest attribute that I just heard, and we're gonna jump into right now, is red teaming being a critical cybersecurity preparedness functionality, right?
Right.
Can you tell us about the red team curriculum you developed at Full Stack Academy and why inspiring cybersecurity professionals need to learn the ethical hacking portion?
No, absolutely, because you can't defend what you don't know. So what the example that I always go to is, I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before the pandemic, right? I did it for 2 years, got to about the blue belt level, and then the pandemic happened, right? But during that time, I got choked, I got arm barred, I was sore that next
Right.
day. Like, yeah, now when it comes to those attacks, they teach you those in order to, so that you can actually know how to defend them, right? It's very hard to defend yourself from a rear naked choke if you don't even know what that is. Same
Right.
thing from a cybersecurity perspective, right?
I love it. I'm about to take a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right. So
Wow.
when it comes to social engineering attacks, right? How do you know whether you're being attacked or not? Well, it really helps to see how the attacks look, right? If you're looking for command and control software in your organization, it really helps to know what Metasploit looks like, what Cobalt Strike looks like, what these more modern penetration testing red teaming frameworks look like, because they all have their own signatures associated with them when executed in environments. And from a red team or from a blue team perspective, you kind of have to know how you're going to be attacked, because it also allows you to prioritize your defenses in the best way to protect your organization, right? If you're only using Linux systems, then, hey, you may not have to worry about Windows side attacks, right? You may more be concerned about stealing SSH keys. You may be more worried about seeing, hey, what services are available on your network that can be exploited, right? Or say that you don't run Linux systems. Maybe you only have Windows in environment. Now you have to start worrying about, Mimikatz, right? Going in there, trying to steal password hashes, lateral movement, maybe compromising domain controllers. You have to know how the attacks work, because if you don't, you're completely dependent on your tools. And in my opinion, that's not cybersecurity. You're just, going off what your tools tell you. You have to know how the attacks work. And that's where the red team curriculum that I did for Full Stack Academy works. We go through the full process. We go through the scanning process, the reconnaissance process, to the initial exploit, to the privilege escalation, to the lateral movement, and all that stuff in between, right? So it really helps to understand all those phases. So when you go about your blue team activities, you know what attacks look like.
So 5 to 7 years ago, the red team seemed like this mythical being, right? And I'm a self-proclaimed blue team, right? Most of my career in IT coming into cyber operations was on the defensive end. And I remember getting lumped upside the head, like you said, not keeping up with one of these teams.
Yeah.
Now I was fortunate to get the opportunity to be like the middleman for one of these teams. It was called an ISO, and they were destroying the enterprise. They were like literally, I mean, they knew the platforms, they knew the APIs, they knew, like you said, they knew all the defensive things that any team could throw up on the blue side, and they were having fun watching the blue team respond. So can we unpack that skill set and knowing the attacks and how it's like ethical hacking is like you said it was the Brazilian jiu-jitsu of cyber, right? What happens if you don't make the skills into that particular arena? Like if you don't have the skills, what would you encourage using your academy? What other tools would you use to get into that particular arena?
Ooh, that's a good question. So what's nice about those types of red teaming activities is that the information is out there. You can go to your paid courses, as in SANS. I'm sure you guys are familiar with SANS, the security organization. They provide red team courses. The OSCP would be another certification that you go for. But all of these cost money, right? These all cost money. And if you're like
a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, exactly. Especially SANS. They try to toss an arm in the leg. But if
sign-on bonuses.
No. Yes, yeah, true. Yeah, right. But say that you don't have the money for that, right? What's nice about the internet is that a lot of that information is for free. Like, yeah, there are so many YouTube videos out there. There are whole social media platforms or sections of them dedicated to just red teaming and new exploits that are found out there. I say that the most important skill that you can have in cybersecurity is curiosity. Being able to find the information that you want, right? Because it's out there. It's just a matter of you wanting to look for it, right? So like I said, you can go on YouTube for free information. You can go on now Threads for free red teaming information, right? LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You have people all the time posting what they've done from the red team side of things, right? There's no shortage of resources for you to find how red teams do what they do. It's more a matter of just you finding it, right? And then, eventually, if you so decide, you can, when you get employed, you can have hopefully your employer sponsor your training course. So you can get that official certification so you can put on your, resume or whatever. But in terms of skilling, curiosity is the most important thing, because that's going to help you find those skills that you need from the red teaming side and otherwise.
Perfect.
I think a big part of that too is assuming people will take the initiative to do that.
Right.
I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, that could be a different subject, but I mean, yes, we have all this information rarely at our fingertips, but sadly, a lot of folks want use the internet just to like for mind numbing stuff. I mean, just being blunt. So
exactly.
I mean, yes, yeah. Cause I definitely agree. I mean, definitely, I'm a big fan of YouTube University. I've used YouTube for a lot of different things, even outside of cyber. I mean, I've used YouTube to fix my car. So I mean, just watching someone do it, and okay, just how you do it. But no, I think maybe that could be more of like a generational thing. I don't know. But again, that could be a whole different topic. But I definitely agree. Yes, that information is out there. You just have to look and just do the research and get it. But let's switch gears to your company, QFunction. So how do customized AI solutions play a role, in improving an organization's cybersecurity resilience? Like, can you share some specific examples of how you helped clients?
Sure. So first, let me say that the biggest issue going forward within cyber is the amount of data that we're collecting now, right? We have so much data being generated from our firewalls, endpoint, all that good stuff. And at the same time, companies are expecting cybersecurity teams to do more with less. So with those two things on the table, it's impossible to get a really good handle on the data that you are collecting, because one, it's just too much, and two, you have other priorities that you need to handle. So that's where the customized AI solutions come in. Because what's nice about AI is that it can do that anomaly detection and tell you, hey, this is weird. This is weird relative to your organization, right? And then you would be able to say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird is this, right? So say that you're trying to do a threat hunt, because threat hunts at their core is just anomaly detection. If you're trying to find something weird in your environment, by definition, that is an anomaly, right? So there are really good algorithms out there that can find those anomalies in your data at scale. And that's the key there. So when you can actually utilize that properly, then that being AI, you'll be able to better summarize that data and be able to bring those anomalies to light. And that's what QFunction aims to provide in both threat hunting and user behavior analytics solutions. In terms of the user behavior analytics, it's a little different, because a lot of UBA solutions, they try to learn your entire environment. And my experience with those has been less than ideal, right? Because what you'll come to realize is that when you try to learn everything, you end up learning nothing. And what I mean by that is, if you have these, unsupervised solutions learning your environment, it's going to bring up like 1 million anomalies and 500,000 threats associated with those anomalies, right? And the problem is that in that case, AI has not helped you. It actually added more work to your plate, because now you have to triage 1 million anomalies and 500,000 threats. So that's just too much, right? So what QFunction aims to do it differently is that we focus on what's important to you. What's important to your organization? What are your crown jewels? So if there are specific systems in your organization that can be considered high value, or there are specific users that can be considered high value, then you can effectively say, hey, let's collect the logs from these people or these systems, learn the normal for these people and systems, and then tell you when things deviate from that. And so it gives you a little more of a focused look on what is anomalous in your environment, as opposed to looking at everything, right? So I do it a little differently. QFunction does it a little differently. And as opposed to trying to learn everything, we try to focus on what is important to you. And from a cost perspective, it really helps you out a lot, because we don't try to put any new software in your environment, right? We work with what you're collecting. Like, we don't try to add anything new, because I think that one of the biggest problems going forward with AI-based solutions is that everything's going to be a product, right? You have to onboard yet another product in your environment. And when it comes to cyber, we have too many tools as it is. Like, I like to remove like half. So how can you better utilize what you're already collecting? And that's where AI comes in. Now, the problem is it's a very new skill set. It's very specialized. So vendors take advantage of that, and they try to say, hey, in order to, use AI, you need to use this product. No, you can actually technically do it right now. Like, you just need to be able to understand how to actually use it. And that's what QFunction provides.
No, that's amazing.
So I'll pipe up real quick. I don't think you're building Skynet beta, but it sounds like it. So can you speak to the red team portion of what you just mentioned? Like, is your functions and models hunting out those particular sectors of a business and attacking them, or is it just purely what you should do to defend against particular, common cyber attack vectors?
Right. So what it actually does is more just general base anomaly detection, right? So what it does, it's learning what's normal and then tell you what's not normal, right? The onus is still put on your teams to follow up with those things that are considered abnormal, but they would be able to better know what is abnormal for your organization, for whatever systems or users that you're trying to actually learn. And that's from the user behavior analytics perspective. So it's not going to tell you, hey, this lateral movement attack is happening, or this type of attack is happening. You don't need that. Your tools are already doing that. Assuming that you already have EDR solutions, you're already following proper cybersecurity hygiene. Because what I always tell people is that there's no need for you to go to AI-based solutions if you're not handling your basics first. You still need vulnerability management. You still need IT asset management. You still need all of that stuff. AI should be augmenting what you have. It's not a replacement for it. You still need to do proper cybersecurity hygiene. So one of my biggest things is that QFunction doesn't want to provide useless solutions, right? So if you're not collecting logs, for example, if you don't have a SIEM yet, you have no business going into AI. You need to be doing that first, right? Like, you need to be following those before you start doing the AI-based solutions. Now, QFunction does help you with seams, like in terms of data collection and trying to get you right on that front. But it's not for the solution is not for everybody, and nor should it be marketed as such. And I think that's a problem. That's going to be a problem going forward. So hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So I think that's a great explanation. I guess just real quickly, when we talk about what's when you look for anomalies and when you're establishing that baseline for organization, how much time does it take for you to say, okay, this is considered, normal, like for organization? Does it take like a month, 2 months? Like, what's the average?
Sure. So it's generally speaking, you want at least 30 days. Like that's the ideal case. Like, to kind of establish that good baseline, it's going to be around a 30-day baseline. Now, that may not always be the case depending on the logs that you're collecting. And QFunction will work with you on that to determine what is the baseline for whatever you're trying to learn, right? And again, we're solely talking about from the user behavior analytics perspective, because baselining, that's when you want to know what's normal, right? So we do work with you on that. But from a threat hunting perspective, you don't really need that baseline, because effectively you're saying, hey, we're looking over the last month or the last 2 to 3 months or whatever, right? So you don't necessarily need a baseline for that. And AI works very well in finding the anomalies that are associated in some set of logs, regardless of how long that actually is. So to answer your question, Dr. Joseph, it's going to be around 30 days. That would probably be the ideal baseline, but it more depends on the activity that you're trying to perform.
So that coincides with the, like you said, if the team or business, is actually doing vuln management, they know where the highs are in that same baseline. So that resonates with me. Like, highs are supposed to be resolved inside of 30 days.
Right.
Well, if you have 1,000 or 7,500 high vulnerabilities, fix those first, then hit the model to attack the organization or analyze the analytics in the organization.
Exactly right. Yeah, because if you have like high critical vulnerabilities, I mean, address those first. Like, I mean, if you're having like, end of life software that's externally facing, you obviously don't want that. If you're still running, end of life systems, you probably want to resolve those first, right? Like, or, just depending on whatever is prioritized for your organization. That does bring up a point though. So, there'll be certain cases where you may not be able to upgrade from end of life software, because of what ends up happening is that a lot of systems have software on them that is mission critical, right? And you can't exactly migrate away from those systems. So, but the problem is, because they're so old, you can't put cybersecurity solutions on them. So how do you learn that? Or rather, how do you defend that? Well, what's nice is that if you could send logs from those systems over, which is supported by those end-of-life operating systems or older systems, you'll be able to use QFunction's ability, right? Because now you're learning what is normal for those end-of-life systems. So you actually have a way to defend them, or at least understand what's normal for them, and then know when things deviate from that normal. Say that someone logs on that they shouldn't, right? Or some software is executed on them that normally doesn't execute. Right. So it provides a unique way of actually defending systems that you may not have the ability to put traditional cybersecurity endpoint detection software on, right? So just a little use case there.
Yeah, so just a reminder to everyone, we're here with Ryan Smith, the founder of QFunction, here on the Cyber Coffee Hour. So please like, share, and subscribe. So Ryan, with cyber threats constantly evolving, what advice do you have for businesses of all sizes looking to strengthen their cybersecurity defenses? Are there any common misconceptions you may have come across that business owners should be aware of?
Yeah. So one of the big things I think going forward is going to be AI, right? Because obviously everything's being marketed towards there, and like, hey, you need this AI solution and all that. Like we said earlier in the podcast, you still need to follow your cybersecurity basics, right? You still need to, understand what's on your network, because one of the maxims of cybersecurity is that you can't defend what you don't know. So you have to know what is important to your organization. You have to know what systems that you have, what users can access those systems, and so on and so forth. You need to start with the basics, right? AI is going to augment what you have, not necessarily replace what you have, at least as of this point anyway. So when it comes to common misconceptions, I think that's going to be the biggest one. You have to know what's on your network and then prioritize those things, right? If it's cloud resources, you have to know what cloud resources that you have. Do you have VMs in the cloud? Are you using, S3 buckets? Are you using, things like that, right? You have to know what you have so you can better defend that. I think that's the biggest thing. People jump to, hey, we need this solution, we need that solution, and all that. First, you have to assess where you are. People forget that first step. Like, yeah, right. Let's see what we have, and then let's prioritize our defense around that. And I think small business owners need to understand that as well, especially for small business owners who may not have networks, right? They may have like a single computer, right? They may have like just one or two assets. It's more a matter of just understanding those and how to best protect those.
Gotcha. No, and definitely, this has been very enlightening. Just learn, of course, about you, and then of course your company, your QFunction. I think you're doing amazing stuff. So just shifting gears a little bit, just want to learn a little bit more about you yourself. But so when we're talking about cybersecurity, how has cybersecurity made an impact in your career, business endeavors, of course, and also lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I see things very differently, right? Like, I'll go into an airport and I'll see like a Windows XP system, or I'll see like a Windows 2000 system, and it scares the crap out of me because I'll see that as like, I'm about to go on a plane, man.
Right.
You're seeing these end of life systems. You start seeing shows differently. You know how shows that show hacking activity, right? And you see all those like, they're just running a ping command, right? Like, oh, we're doing something cool here. Like, yeah. So
you become more analytical of those type of shows. Yeah.
That's elk in the background, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. I think one of the best ones of recent memory is Mr. Robot. I think they did a really good job.
I agree.
It's
probably the most accurate.
Absolutely, that was excellent. I loved what they did there.
Same director did Leave the World Behind, by the way. If anyone didn't know that.
Nice.
What was it? Do you remember the name?
Oh, Sam.
Is it Sam something?
Sam Esmail.
Sam Esmail. Yeah, Sam Esmail did both, so that's a double dip for me.
And then you just start, when people ask you questions about stuff, right? There will be things that your own family members start seeing in the news, and they start coming to you. Hey, Ryan, what does this mean, right? Or what does that mean? How does this affect me? One of the big things now is that with AI being everywhere, my wife asked me like, hey, what does this mean? Is this something that we have to be concerned about now? So you start just viewing the world slightly differently, like from like a different type of lens, right? So I think that's the biggest way that it's affected my life. From a career standpoint, I mean, I owe everything that I have to cyber, right? Like, I mean, I'm able to make a living because of my knowledge in cyber and computers and all that. So it's been good to me, like, for better or for worse, right? Because cyber's not always fun. People kind of glamorize cyber and make it seem like it's this excellent field that nothing goes wrong. But no, like things can go very wrong.
It has gone wrong, right? We're seeing it play out everywhere now. Like you said, AI is the next wave, and we're starting to see how AI is not so much made everybody scared or whatever, but they've gotten everybody on alert of like what can this capability do in cyber and around the world. Correct. This globalization we're seeing play out on TV, and I'm saying that very snarkily, but it concerns me as a cybersecurity professional as well. Banks, hospitals, education centers. We see it everywhere in public, but then also private owns some of these things. Right. And we're like, well, we don't want private to put these models and jeopardize more of the world scheme, right? Politics and all that included, right?
Exactly. Like, so that's what we're seeing. Like, I think that that's how it's affected me and my career the most. Yeah.
So I'll pipe up here too, right? So with that in alignment to what you're seeing and your passion, it sounds like, for cybersecurity, can you jump into what obstacles you had to overcome to arrive where you are at QFunction today, and then your whole journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, going forward, like, I mean, when it comes to being in tech, right? There's always going to be that stigma about being Black in tech. Like, when it comes to being a minority and everything, it's more about proving yourself and proving that, hey, you actually have the knowledge to go forward with this. And I think that one of the biggest things for me was actually imposter syndrome, and I still experience that. You know, when
Yeah,
I
I agree.
went down the path of founding QFunction, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to put myself out there. I'm gonna have to start doing this. People are gonna start critiquing me and everything. But there's a certain point where you kind of just have to throw that fear out the window and just jump in the pool. Like, yeah,
Right.
like after a certain point. So I think that that's going to be that's has been my path, right? Like, yeah, because when it comes to tech and all that, I've always loved computers. I always say that computers were my first love, right? They always have, they always will be. But going forward now, like, yeah, it's more a matter of just showing the knowledge that you've attained over these years, and then be able to prove yourself that, hey, I actually do know what I'm talking about here. And you can look at the website to prove it, right? Like, yeah,
Right.
or my
Nice.
credentials to actually back that up. So I think that's going to be
Research on your research.
yeah, research on my research. Absolutely. Like, yeah. I mean, that's what it is, right? And I always tell people, like, if you see something wrong in what I'm saying, let me know. Contact me. I'm not scared of criticism. I've dealt with that all my life. Like, yeah, when it comes down to it, it's more just understanding that you're not going to have all the answers as well, and that's okay. It's okay to not know something. Like, yeah, and I think it's almost seemed like a crime now when you don't understand something, or when you don't know something. Like, no, it's not a bad thing. Like, yeah, you just didn't know it. Like, that's okay. Right? So yeah, that's my take on it anyway. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great mindset, because I wish a lot more people incorporated that, because I think a lot of people get hamstrung or handcuff themselves because if they feel they don't get it all right, they're a failure, or
Right.
they're not good enough. I mean, we talk about that
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. I mean, I've definitely gone through it myself, so
Me
I'm
too.
speaking from experience. But
Mm,
I think, yeah, as you said, you just have to accept the fact that yes, you're not going to know everything all at once. You're learning, you're going through it, and just to have that mindset to say, hey, if I'm wrong, okay, I'm wrong. I'll find out why, then I'll learn from it. That's how you get better.
yes.
That you learn through failure. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, they feel like failure is such a bad thing. I think failure is what helps make you. Failure is
Yes.
what gets you to the success.
It
Make
does.
you, not break you. No one could take that away from you. So shout out to the fellow coffee maker, because you may not remember, but you helped me get through that. You were the one that said, "Hey, let's start the podcast. Let's brand it out. Get that knowledge of yours out there with our friend Gibbs, which we will circle back on, but we will do a separate episode on that." But yeah, you're absolutely right there. You dialed in as a coffee maker and a mentor of mentors alongside with Ryan now, that we have to get over the fear of failing. I had that. I've had that for most of my life. Poverty, trauma, all those things have instilled that into me as well. But Ryan, you knocked it out the park too. There's nothing wrong with that. We're still professionals, right? We're still makers. We're still takers out here too, to some extent, but we won't talk about that. But we have overcome that imposter syndrome by what we're doing right now here. Telling to speak about, talk on it, and look at the people that have done it or have failed at it. I'll be perfect. There's nothing wrong with failure. You can fail and learn from that failure.
Exactly.
I agree.
Definitely.
So as you're working, and given the title of our show, Cyber Coffee Hour, is a little emphasis on the coffee right now. But
right now,
but for you, like, what is your favorite beverage? As you're working tirelessly through the day.
Matcha tea. Like, yeah, so matcha tea, because
Nice.
Japanese matcha tea. So I was on coffee for a little bit, like, yeah, because things got really hectic and everything. But then my wife put me on matcha tea, and then I didn't like it at first. I was like, it's kind of weird. But then I started drinking. It was like, this is actually really good. So now I look forward to it every week now. Like, yeah, because I get it like once or twice a week now, and it's my favorite drink. That's what gives me that energy to kind of keep going. So I do like coffee. Like, obviously, coffee has a great taste to it, but I'm more of a matcha guy. Like, yeah, these days, that's what gives me like that energy, that clean energy that I'm looking for.
So I have some coworkers that, and one in particular I'm thinking of. He's 100% gung ho with tea. Like he gets it imported. Like, it's not just a regular one you just buy from like Food Line. I mean, he gets it delivered to his house. So
wow, he's got a subscription.
No, for real. Like, and it's not just the regular tea bags. He's getting the actual leaves. You got to put it. I mean, it's a whole process, man. So are you like that? Like, is it to where you gotta do a whole process, or is just something you can just pick up from the grocery store?
It's something that I pick up from the store, right? We have a store called Seven Leaves, and they specialize in that type of stuff, coffee and tea and all that. So that's where I go. That's my choice of place in order to get matcha. So no, I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself like a connoisseur, coffee snob, matcha snob, or anything. I just like the way it makes me feel, man. It tastes good. It gives me energy. That's all.
well, let's influence the spirit there, because we had a previous guest that did took a matcha and put an espresso shot. His name was Dexter Henry, and he influenced, along with my family members here, he influenced my idea of combining the two. Have you done that yet? Have you taken an espresso shot and put it in matcha yet?
I actually have, just for an experiment, because Seven Leaves offered it. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I was wired that day.
I was gonna say, like,
I can't wait.
I want to know what your blood pressure was like after that.
I'm sure that wasn't great, Dr. Joseph.
Oh my gosh! Oh my god!
It was off the roof, out the roof. Like, yeah, you know. Right. Yeah, I was wired that day. That was a really interesting day. I don't think I got much done because I was too jittery. I was kind of just pacing back and forth, right? Because I just need to, burn the energy in some form. So I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that again. So I haven't done it since. But to answer your question, Alfredzo, I have done it. I definitely done it. Yeah.
I'm not ready to cross that divide yet.
Wow. So Ryan, and again, thank you for being part of the show. But lastly, what are some of your hobbies, interests, or even recreational activities that you like to do outside of cybersecurity?
Absolutely. Yeah. So mainly it's working out. Like, that's what kind of keeps my sanity for the most part. Like, yeah, right. There's a lot going on in my life, and being able to just have that time to just burn that energy to kind of just work out. I mean, that's what helps me a lot. I'm a big proponent of fitness. Like, yeah, just staying active. I've been doing it since about 2010, on and off. Like, yeah, so that's a big thing for me. I've been really getting into chess lately. Like, yeah, I've been really doing that. Like, yeah, so that's been fun. Golf, I'm one of those pandemic golfers that hasn't stopped playing, right? So
top golf, you did the top golf thing?
Yeah, exactly, absolutely, yes, exactly. I did all nice. Yeah, so I've been doing that. Like, yeah, and then keeping up with the NBA as much as I can as well. Yeah. I've been doing that too much because life has been too busy for me. I recently had my daughter. She's about 1.5 years old.
Oh, congratulations!
Like, yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so TV's kind of been out the window. It's mainly been kids shows lately, but like, I'm hoping within the next year or two I can get back into
Isn't that crazy? A new person comes in your life and they take over your TV. Don't play those, but they take over the remote,
separate the channels. Listen, it gets worse the more. So when they have siblings too, they like double team you.
Oh my god!
And they trade shows, and then like, well, why does this one not have a tablet? Look, yes, I have a separate profile for my children, and it's like, don't touch my profile. Please don't use my TV. May I have permission to use my TV?
So they are, yeah. I mean, it's true though. As cliche as it is, they really do change your life.
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, I had to, reevaluate who I was as a person, before going forward, right? So it's been interesting, but that's been taking a majority of my time outside of cyber, right? Like, yeah, that's a full-time job in and of itself.
Understandably so. Definitely get it. Yeah. And again, congrats again, man. That's amazing.
Thank you.
But Ryan, definitely appreciate you spending time with us here on the Cyber Coffee Hour. So before we let you go, any last words you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. One, thanks for having me, Dr. Joseph. And two, if you're interested in learning how AI can be applied to cybersecurity, visit QFunction.AI. It has all the information that you need. I do a lot of blog posts there illustrating how AI can be used. And you can even contact me if you or your business are interested in doing this type of stuff with your data. Feel free to contact me. All the information that you need is on QFunction.AI.
We might need some help on the coffee sector. Might stay in touch.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's amazing. No, but thank you. Yeah, and thank you to you, those watching. Thank you for tuning in to the Cyber Coffee Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all of our platforms. You can find the Cyber Coffee Hour on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. That's it. That's a wrap. We out of here. Peace.